Hello again. These are some more stories from Pat Eadie, from that well-known Eadie family of the West Coast. And this one's called the Able Tasman Wreck. From the day that the Able Tasman broke its hawser in a moderate flood drifting down the river and ended up on the Cobden Tip head, there seemed to be much made of it that it could have been a put-up job. I'm sure that my father invested in the Greymouth Company, which bought the salvage rights to the wreck. All the major businesses and professional people in town some very astute farmers and bank managers put up the money. Within a week, the wreck was put up for auction and knocked down to the Greymouth Company. By the way, my father spoke and of the business people who called at our spacious area in Herb Moore's tea rooms, it could be assumed that something big was going down. There was never anything near this excitement, even when it was mooted that there was a possible change of government forecast. The coast was a semi-autonomous area, and to say that it was self-governing was not far short of the truth. The politicians only wanted that whatever happened on the coast would not adversely affect the production of timber and coal. For the whole town to be in a buzz meant that myself, as a youngster, was excited, even though there was nothing to be excited about or there was a wreck to be seen. Jack Blanchfield, Uncle Jack, was always at the leading edge of any sharp practice, even if it was not obvious. Herb Moore and his wife Margaret were also in. Mick Howson was also on the scene and mentioned several times a day in our house, usually as referenced on the telephone. It was not until long after the war would I discover the people who partnered, and how Mick came to get a large sum of cash to enable him to move to Nelson, buy a string of butcher's shops and a string of successful racehorses. His hides and skins came off the wreck first and were hidden away in his storehouse in Park Street, and therefore not subject to scrutiny by other shareholders, although they were aware that was Mick's percentage that was written into the company contract. These hides were not resold as a job lot and released onto the market in a trickle release fashion. There was a mysterious fire at the stables in Victoria Park racetrack that stored some hides and skins before the Able Tasman was wrecked. The fire was investigated and found to be an accident, and insurance was paid out. Mick acquired all the hides and skins that were on the Able Tasman and made a small fortune by their sale over a spread out period. Jack Beban was a senior fitter and turner for the dispatch foundry. He also found the ready cash shortly after the wreck to build his house on Eason's Hill, completely free of mortgage. The major shareholders of the foundry also made a killing. It was a prerequisite of the shareholders that they had the first call on the ship's cargo and equipment pertaining to their industry. Therefore, the ship's engine, winches, drive shaft, propeller, and ancillary equipment were seen covered and lying on the foundry siding several months later, all suitably covered, or should one say hidden, until sold by Clyde Engineering in Wellington. Smaller winches, rigging, ship's anchors and chains were around in Davidson's foundry yard in Hokitika. Much of it was loaded onto Westland transport trucks from the Cobden quarry, where it was first dispatched. I was but a fly on the wall when an argument between father and someone else, presumably the dispatch foundry, that a couple of UB's timber rail carriers were shunted into what was the Europa petrol siding in Smith Street, so cluttering the rail storage. The timber was onward sold to the contractors to the government who were building the Wellington railway station. I remember there was almost a scandal about the timber reaching Wellington without the full transport price being paid for its transport. It was eventually argued that the government bought the job lot from the Cobden quarry, and as they owned it, the transport became an internal matter for the railways, 100 government owned. Bill Steer, who also had money in Westland Transport and owned the Greymouth Motors Garage, was also the chief engineer of the Greymouth Harbour Board. Sounds cosy. The use of the harbour crane at the tip head, the use of the little red engines and the flatbed trucks, the using of the Cobden Quarry as a repository for the shipwrecked goods was all working even before the Harbour Board special meeting, which only affixed the rates for the various equipment that was already being used. Businessmen of the town were on the Harbour Board, so it didn't take a mathematician to work out that they were also on the Greymouth Company. There's lots more of this, so just for the moment I'll say cheerio.